Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now this bit is for the parents, guardians and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned. Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned.
Good morning and welcome to the Learn Live channel and to today's How to Keep the Lights On broadcast in partnership with Hinkley Point C and EDF Renewables. Now globally we have a huge challenge around future electricity production. How can the UK produce electricity in a reliable way whilst keeping carbon emissions low in the future? Can we even tackle climate change? Well, today we're going to find out what EDF Renewables and Hinkley Point C are doing to meet this challenge to support Green Week. Now, if you have any questions for one of the speakers, please leave them in the live chat, which is situated next to the video player. Now, once you leave your questions, one of our panel members will get back to you as soon as possible. And if you want to find out more about broadcasts like this, please hit the subscribe button at the top of the page. Now, I'd like to pass over, after this short ident, over to Tom Thayer, who is the Hinkley Point C Education Lead. And he tells us what Hinkley Point C are doing to support this important Green Week and how it will make the industry seem a lot brighter. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and details on how to do that are coming up straight after this.
Thank you, Stuart. My name is Tom Thayer. I'm the education lead at Hinkley Point C, a new nuclear power station being built in Somerset. I have a wonderful job of going into schools and colleges and talking about Hinkley Point C and highlighting some of our job opportunities, both in the construction phase and the eventual operation of this new nuclear power station. EDF Energy is the UK's largest supplier and generator of low carbon electricity in the UK. And you can see here from this map that we have assets all across the UK, inclusive of 8 nuclear power stations, and also assets in renewable energy. So we have onshore and offshore wind farms. We also have a gas power station. We also have a battery storage facility. But today I'm going to talk about Hinkley Point C. So Hinkley Point C is a new nuclear power station. It's the first of a generation to be built. And the reason we're building it is because those 8 nuclear power stations, which I highlighted on the previous slide, they have a shelf life. They have a life expectancy. And over the coming years, they will stop producing electricity and they will be decommissioned. So they will be safely taken apart. So they need to be replaced, and they need to be replaced because we've got to keep on generating electricity. And actually, nuclear power, part of a wider energy mix for the UK, is a crucial way that we generate electricity in a low carbon way. So you can see from this slide that Hinkley Point C will produce 3.2 gigawatts of power, which is 7% of the UK's electricity, which is enough for around 6 million homes. So that's the equivalent of 9 million tons approximately of carbon dioxide being avoided every year going into the atmosphere. And that's equivalent to roughly 2 million cars. Now, as you know, carbon dioxide is a contributing factor to global warming and climate change. So it's very, very important that power stations like this, as well as renewable investments, are built so we can keep producing electricity, but hit those very ambitious targets of net zero and also those international targets that the government has signed up to. So this is where we are in the stage of Hinkley Point C. So we're just entering the mechanical, electrical and heat ventilation part of the program. So this is about putting things actually inside the buildings that we have created. And there are lots of jobs available at Hinkley Point C during the construction phase, and you can see some of those listed here. Lots of apprenticeship opportunities, and then also operational jobs. So when Hinkley Point C is up and running. So if you want a job that makes a difference by contributing to those net zero ambitions, if you want to work with interesting people, if you want to earn a good salary and develop skills for life, this could be you in the future. Now, there's lots of ways that you can find out more. So we have a profile here on Learn Live. You could join the Young HPC program if you're 16 plus by visiting edfenergy.com/Young HPC. You could explore more about apprenticeships. You could explore our job service. And if you're local to the Southwest, you could even book a tour to our new visitor centre or perhaps a tour of site. But wherever you are, you can keep up to date with what's going on at Hinkley Point C through our various social channels. And we have a huge range and variety of videos, which are available to view on the EDF UK YouTube channel, as well as resources and activities here at Learn Live. Thank you very much for listening, and I will pass back to Stuart.
So I'm just going to start it again. Thank you, Tom, for telling us all about Hinkley Point C. I know you're supporting Green Week and how this will affect the Hinkley Point C site in the future. Now, if you have any questions for Tom on Hinkley Point C's plans, you can leave them now in the live chat next to the video player. And Tom will be answering your questions right now as he's joined by the team at EDF who are behind the scenes on the live chat. So you're not on your own today, Tom.
No, I think we've got Emma as well on the live chat, so answering some questions, which is amazing as they come in. So fire away.
Thank you for joining us. You're no stranger to the Learn Live channel. It's great to have you back. And what an exciting week Green Week is shaping up to be. I mean, you must be equally as excited about this chance to showcase what you're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, Hinkley Point C is a massive undertaking. It's recently been on BBC Two. There's a wonderful programme on BBC Two at the moment showcasing the project. But it is a project of national significance. Producing low carbon electricity as we move forward, as you heard on the presentation, and doing that in a responsible way. So helping Britain to achieve that net zero ambition for 2050.
Absolutely, and you had the education. You're part of the education team. You're leading on it for HPC, and for you, why HPC? Just can you explain why the significance? Yeah.
For me personally, or why we need it?
Both. Let's do both. You personally first.
So for me, it's an incredible project to be part of, and it's almost like it feels like it's a once in a lifetime. So for me in my career, that's an absolutely fantastic opportunity. In terms, more importantly, of why it's so important for the UK is that if we are going to continue to meet very ambitious targets for our emissions of carbon dioxide, we have to make sure that we're producing and generating electricity in a low carbon way. So we've been doing this so far as the UK with a balanced energy mix of the way that we produce electricity. And we have 8 nuclear power stations, EDF. So EDF is our parent company, the ones that have commissioned the power stations. But you heard on the presentation, we have 8 nuclear power stations, but they're all coming to the end of their lives. They need to be replaced. And what is good about nuclear provides that stable baseload power, and it doesn't produce any carbon dioxide. So it's an integral part of what we call the energy mix for that low carbon future.
And it's a huge project, Tom, isn't it? I mean, I've followed you on LinkedIn, and there's been some brilliant footage of huge cranes turning up. I mean, you're not messing about, are you? I mean, this is a serious project, and it's really going to make a massive difference, isn't it, to get to net zero and that carbon sustainability?
It certainly is. It's an incredible feat of engineering. Our construction director, Rob Jordan, calls it Europe's largest construction project. It's a project of significance. It's world famous, and there are so many people working on the project with so many different skills. We all come together as a big Hinkley Point C family to do our bit into producing this, or creating this power station that is going to produce low carbon electricity for many years to come.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Before we get on to the questions that have been coming in on the live chat as we've been on air, can I just ask about the opportunities, because you obviously want to educate young people in particular about the opportunities that are going to exist in the future. I mean, can you give us a sense of what type of opportunities are going to be available for young people when they leave school and college over the next few years at HPC? Yeah,
that's a great question. So there are going to be many. We have got an ambition to achieve 1,000 new apprenticeship positions in the construction phase of the project. So we're roughly at year 4, year 5 of the build. So we're about to enter the mechanical, electrical and heat ventilation part of the project. So this is about putting the equipment actually in the buildings that we've created. So everything from welding to pipe fitting to scaffolders to all of the support staff needed around, hospitality, logistics, the list goes on, and there's a huge variety there. And then if people have the ambition to go off to university, so say you're 16 now and you have the ambition to go to college, then go off to university, there will be jobs for those individuals in the operating of that power station in years to come. So it's not just about building it and constructing it, it needs to be operated safely. So plenty of opportunities for what we expect to be a life expectancy of 60 years operating the power station. And again, huge variety of roles within the operating of a power station moving forward. So very, very exciting.
And if you're like a career leader or a parent or even a student wanted to find out more, Tom, what would be the best go-to page or website to find out as these vacancies appear?
So if you look at our partner profile here on Learn Live, all of our links are there. But in essence, www.edfenergy.com/HPC Education and Skills will show you our Inspire program, which is our pre-16 work, then post-16, which is young HPC, all the way up to our excellent job service, which brokers people into jobs, and you can register there to hear about apprenticeship opportunities.
Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot now. You're definitely going to be in the hot seat with these questions, but don't worry if you can't answer them. I'm sure your team behind the scenes will also put in their answers. But Hattie would like to know, what will be the best source of renewable energy in the future?
Oh, that's a brilliant question, Hattie. I think you have to spin the question a little bit, and you have to think not what is going to be the best and single out one. I think you have to think about the big picture. So if you think about the benefits of solar's wonderful, but the sun doesn't always shine. Wind is absolutely fantastic, but the wind doesn't always blow. And we don't have a huge capacity to be able to store electricity that we generate during the sunny days, wind days, to then be able to use it at night time or when the wind doesn't blow. So you've got to have the mix of renewables, and that could be tidal as well. And then you've got to have things like nuclear, which provides that base load power that's ticking away in the background. And then actually for quick responses, things like gas, although not low carbon, you can turn on a gas power station very, very quickly. So if you have big peaks in demand, you can turn a gas power station on to deal with those peaks. So it really is about that balanced pie of different energy generation to be able to kind of have that sort of sustainable way moving forward of producing electricity. So I wouldn't single out one, but really think about the bigger pie and the mix.
That's a great question. Thanks for that, Hattie. And Edward B also is asking a couple of science questions here for you, Tom. He wants to know what percentage of your energy comes from wind turbines. Any idea?
Oh, that is a really, really good question, Edward. I think if you go to the main EDF site, you can see our percentage of electricity generation. But there's also a number of apps that are available. I think there's one called Energy Watch, which gives you real-time data of what is being produced electricity-wise from what power station or what form of energy production right now in real time, which is absolutely fantastic. So that's called Energy Watch.
Brilliant. There's a couple more while we've got you, Tom. Laura's asked, what qualifications do I need to become an engineer on a solar farm? I mean, they're really thinking about the future, aren't they? They really want to get into this.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I don't know what age you are, Laura, but, your sciences, your maths, really, really important, I think, if you want to be an engineer. But also, you've got to think about your wider skills. You've got to think about, how you communicate, how you work as a team. An engineer very rarely works on their own. So if you go to edfenergy.com/younghpc, there's loads of great resources on there about how you can develop yourself. You might go off and do something like Duke of Edinburgh or NCS. Think about your behaviours, your skills for your application for your CV. And extracurricular activities like tinkering away, playing with things, overcoming challenges and problems, are really, really good things to think about in trying to develop yourself to be an absolutely fantastic engineer of the future.
Engineers for the future, all on here today on this call, Tom. Edward B, by the way, for that question you answered earlier about percentage of energy, he just said thanks, and he's going to take a look at those websites you recommended. So thank you for that, Tom. And then just finally, Max wants to put you in his shoes. How would you start a career now with EDF, knowing what you know now? If you're a young person, how would you start it right now?
Oh, Max, you know what? That is such a great question. I think, I've always encouraged people to think about their future. And even if it's 5 minutes a week, taking a look at some websites, taking a look at some broadcasts, going to websites like startprofile.com, where you can see different employers and different organizations who are offering jobs. You can put in your likes, your dislikes, what you're good at school, what you're not, and it starts giving you job recommendations. Any time that you can do and put into that now, earlier rather than later, is really fantastic. I didn't find out about what an apprenticeship was until I was already at university, which I just think was, it was why I'm so passionate about talking to young people about jobs and opportunities. For me, apprenticeships, higher level degree apprenticeships, where you get a degree, but you're being paid by an organization, an employer, to get that degree and get some valuable hands-on work experience. Fantastic routes into organizations like EDF and like all of our contract partners that work in building this exciting power station. Really, I would encourage you to take a look online, some of our resources that I've mentioned, to find out more about those exciting different pathways that you might be able to take.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Tom, for joining us during this special week, Green Week, where we're looking at all things green, sustainable, carbon neutral, and it's been really interesting. And thank you so much again for your presentation as well. And if you have any more questions for Tom and the rest of the Hinkley Point C, who are right behind the scenes now answering your questions, then please leave them in the live chat next to the video player, and one of the team will get back to you. And I'm sure Tom will jump on the chat later to give you a bit more detail and links to various important websites. Really nice to see you, Tom. It'd be great to get you back on again in the future. You take care, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Hi there, my name's Rachel and I'm on the Science and Engineering Graduate Scheme at EDF Renewables. And really part of my motivation to pursue a career within renewables is that I wanted to be part of the solution to the current climate emergency that we face today. And that's a little bit what I'm going to talk to you about. So EDF Renewables' purpose is to really accelerate towards a net zero future through the development of clean energy solutions. And it's our goal to make sure that clean energy is both accessible and affordable to everyone. And this phrase net zero gets sort of thrown around a lot, but what does net zero really mean? And what it is basically it's a balance between the greenhouse gases emitted and greenhouse gases removed. So the sum of this equation is equal to zero. And EDF Renewables are striving to drive down the first part of that equation. So we're working to reduce and minimize the amount of greenhouse gases emitted. But why are we doing this? So scientists across the world are in agreement that greenhouse gas concentrations are causing global temperatures to rise. And in order to mitigate the worst impacts of this, we really need to limit global temperature rises to within 1.5 degrees Celsius of pre-industrial levels. And we therefore means that we have a carbon budget, a greenhouse gas budget, and we have to limit these emissions and reach net zero to stay within this 1.5 degree target. And today we're already at about 1 degree above pre-industrial levels. So it's a really tough challenge that we've set ourselves, but it's one that we're absolutely committed to achieving. And how are we going to achieve this? We're going to achieve it through clean energy solutions such as solar and wind. But alongside them, we need really clever storage solutions such as battery technology. And that's because it's not always windy and it's not always sunny, but we always need power and electricity. So we need a way of storing the electricity for when we want to use it. Currently, EDF Renewables has about 1 gigawatts operational of clean energy, and that's enough to power about 800,000 homes in the UK. But we have about 4 times that, almost 4 gigawatts, currently in planning and development. And this growth is predicted to accelerate and accelerate in order to reach these tough government targets that we have to limit our carbon emissions. But it's not all about CO2 and it's not all about greenhouse gases. There are other things to consider when it comes to assessing our environmental impact and ensuring that we're a sustainable company. And these aspects we have to think about across what we call our project life cycle, and that's through the development stages where you're planning and developing your solar farm or your wind farm. We need to make sure that we're sourcing the right materials and we're using local content where possible. And then during the lifetime, during the operational period of the asset or the wind farm or the solar farm, we don't want to just minimize our negative impact on the local environment, but actually we want to have an actively positive impact. So, for example, in solar farms, we're exploring the use of the land use options underneath our solar panels. So we're looking at, for example, planting lots of wildflowers across our solar farm to really ensure that we're improving the local ecosystems in those areas. And then when it comes to the end of life, when it's had its 40 years producing clean energy for our homes, we want to make sure that we're not just taking down the wind turbines and putting it onto landfill. We're looking at ways that these turbines can have new uses and how can the materials that they're made of can be recycled and have a whole new life again without just going into landfill. And this is just a little flavour of all the different aspects that we're considering at EDF Renewables and trying to transition into a clean net zero future. And they're really at the heart of every decision that we make at EDF Renewables. And that's why I really love working for them. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about any of these topics raised. Thank you.
So thank you, Rachel, for that and telling us all about how EDF Renewables are supporting Green Week and about how the work that the company does envisions is in the future. I mean, the future is very exciting, Rachel, isn't it, of what's happening?
And lots of upcoming opportunities for new development. So it's definitely a fast-growing industry with lots of exciting opportunities for young people to get involved in.
Definitely. And you've been met by your colleague Anna Jackson. Hi Anna, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Anna, can you just tell us a little bit about what your role is there, please?
Yeah, good morning. So I'm Anna Jackson. I'm the Principal Engineering Manager for the Competency Centres at EDF Renewables. So just to explain maybe what the Competency Centres is, that's really the hub of our engineering organisation. So we have a number of different capabilities within that. So we have quite a large grid and electrical team. We have a mechanical and composites team, a battery and PV solar team, and finally a wind measurement and analysis team. So covering quite a lot of the business.
Perfect. Well, we had quite a number of questions on the chat, which Tom Fayer, your colleague, was going through from HPC. So we're going to come and ask you a few of those questions as well, if we may, and do your best to answer them. This is from schools watching across the UK. But can I just ask you first, companies are obviously rushing to cut carbon emissions and switch into renewable energy. What are the different ways you can generate electricity in the UK? Rachel, could I start with you on that one?
So I guess you've got the conventional historic ways of producing electricity, which are typically more carbon intensive. So you've got your coal and gas. And as you said, we're seeing a switch away from those into less carbon intensive technologies. So I'm sure they would have covered the nuclear aspect of that earlier. But what we're more focused on in EDF Renewables is looking at wind. So that's both onshore and offshore wind, and solar as well as sort of three key ways that we focus on developing technology. Anna, I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
No, that's right. I think there are a number of upcoming technologies as well, and particularly within our area, one of the things that we're looking at is blending, as Rachel says, wind and solar with storage capability, whether that's battery or potentially something more novel like a hydrogen solution in the future. So there are lots of different ways that we can start to make that transition.
Quite a bit of interest as to how you both got into this industry. So, Rachel, I'm going to ask you first. I mean, how did this journey start for you? How did your career in this industry get going? Was it from uni or was it before then?
So I'm very new to this industry. I only started in September 2020. So I'm still learning the ropes. Before joining the industry, I did a PhD studying carbon storage in the oceans and understanding how carbon can drive global temperature changes. And that's really been my motivation as to why I wanted to join the industry. I wanted to be part of the solution that can help drive down carbon emissions and achieve net zero. So that was my route into the industry, more because I wanted to do something about the climate emergency as opposed to a typical sort of engineering route into it.
Yeah, brilliant. And must have been fascinating studying the oceans. Was that whilst you were in uni, like on a placement?
So that was as part of my PhD after my undergraduate degree. So it was a 4-year research.
So go on, tell us where you travelled to. Whereabouts did you get to in that study?
All over. My samples were from New Zealand, in the Southern Ocean, and also some sampling in Bermuda as well. So I was very lucky, lots of travelling.
Fantastic. Okay. And Anna, just for yourself, I mean, for people who want to know how you get into this industry, where did your journey start?
I think on the opposite to Rachel, I was maybe more the traditional kind of engineering route. So I studied mechanical engineering and similarly kind of did a little bit of industrial placements whilst studying. But I think Rachel articulated quite well kind of the reason why a lot of us join the business. We do have that shared aspiration to try to be part of the solution when it comes to the climate crisis. So I think we're all kind of pulling in that direction, but I was probably a bit more straight and narrow down the mechanical route.
If I can stay with you then, Anna, because we've had the question I want to ask you during Green Week, which is a significant week, isn't it, when we look at all things sustainability-wise and net carbon neutral and all the rest of it. Well, I'm asking is what is the sustainability roadmap for EDF Renewables? Can you answer that?
Yeah, I think when you look at our current portfolio, we have 36 sites in operation, and I think to date it's been focused very heavily on wind technology. So I think a number of those sites, 33 of the sites, are operational onshore wind turbine sites. But we're starting to diversify as we move forward. So we're starting to invest more in offshore capability, but as we say, we're rapidly expanding solar capabilities, and we have a number of exciting opportunities on the horizon to really push out into that part of the industry, and also working very closely with another part of our business called Pivot Power to bring on board a lot of battery storage capability. So we're really starting to diversify our approach and blend that solution as we start to come into the coming years and decades.
Brilliant. We've had lots of questions about the use of energy and what that's going to look like in the future on the chat. And I mean, for you, Rachel, just on the question of EDF Renewables, how do you see the future of EDF Renewables going? I mean, what's next, do you think, when it comes to helping the climate?
I think the first thing is that the future for EDF Renewables is definitely growth. I mean, even with the pandemic in the last year, the business has grown so much. And that's something that's going to continue to happen going forward as the demand for these clean energy technologies across the country continues to grow. I think, as Anna was saying, our main so far has been sort of onshore wind, And I think for the future, we're going to diversify and look more into offshore wind and sort of large solar projects, but also some sort of smaller, sort of quick and easy solar projects as well. And trying to explore different technologies, how we can combine projects to I'm trying to see how to phrase it. How can we best combine projects to make sure that we're getting the best power output by sort of having battery on site in solar panels, so we can have power production at night, say when the sun's gone down.
Yeah, because it does heavily, as Tom was saying earlier, it does heavily rely on the sun, so you do need those backups. And Anna, just same question to you really. It sounds like an exciting time for EDF Renewables. You're heading definitely in the right direction. And what does the future hold, and what other sources of energy do you think we may come across?
I think, as Rachel said, one of the things that really attracted me to EDF Renewables as well is that growth agenda. So even in a relatively short space of time, we have taken on a number of new individuals within the business, and we're starting to really bring in other industrial best practices into the sector, into EDF Renewables. And I think that diversification that we've talked about is going to be really, really key. And it fills me with a lot of optimism to think ahead. What might we look like in 3, 4, 5 years time? And I like to think that we'd be successful in a lot of the grid scale solar projects. So as Rachel says, there's two categories. We've got the industrial and commercial side, and then sort of the large scale solar projects, which I think will come into play relatively soon. We've got that very competitive offshore wind part of the business that we look to expand in. So I'd like to think, crystal ball, what does it look like in a couple of years, that we'd be, a much more larger, more well-rounded organisation, and we're really blending across those technologies to give the best solution possible.
Yeah, and we're always hearing, aren't we, on the news about how some days, energy from the sun, from battery, from wind turbines is actually exceeded traditional energy, gas and oil. I mean, are we getting to that stage, you think, where we're going to see that on a regular occurrence across the UK?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every other week there's a new record set for maximum power from wind or renewables, and I think that's only going to become more frequent as more wind farms and more solar farms become operational across the country, not just owned by EDF Renewables, but by other companies as well in this growing industry.
Well, sadly, we're almost out of time, but I'm just going to, I was fascinated what you were saying, Rachel, before about the studies of the oceans. And, it's no accident that we're doing this now, looking at new energy forms, because the planet needs it. So, Anna, can I just ask on the final comment from you? I mean, from what you're seeing, the climate, and how important is this now, Anna, to be investing in renewable energies for all our futures, really?
I think it is really important, and I do think we've all got a small part to play in that. We've got businesses like EDF Renewables and lots of others that are investing in the technologies, developing these sites, but I think everybody can contribute in some small way. It doesn't necessarily have to be, go and build a big wind farm. There are changes that, we can all make in our day-to-day lives to help, help the cause and the agenda. So I think it really is crucial, particularly over the next decade, that we get it right.
And just finally, Rachel, I mean, you've seen firsthand the effects probably it's having on the oceans from your studies. I mean, we do need to get a move on with this, don't we? We need to make our energy sustainable, because the planet is suffering, isn't it, because of what's happened over the past 50, 60 years?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, timing is really key in this. We need to reach peak emissions as soon as possible, and then start the rapid descent before we need to start then relying on sort of unproven technologies like carbon capture storage. It's really key that we don't emit the emissions to start off with. And yeah, that's what we're all about achieving as soon as possible, reducing those.
Definitely. And you've both entered this industry with a purpose. I can clearly see that today. You both want to make a difference, which is why you're doing the role you're in. And just finally from you, I mean, for any young person looking at this industry now, what would you say to them about getting involved and the benefits of supporting what you're doing?
It might sound blunt, but just do it. You know, there are lots of different ways in which you can get involved with the industry and sector. You know, look at our business. There are lots of different routes into that, whether it's the apprenticeship scheme, graduates, you know, some interns. There are lots of opportunities out there for people that have the interest and sort of drive and want to get involved. And as I say, you know, we've all got a part to play. It might not necessarily be going work for a business. There are lots of different things that an individual can do day to day to help that cause. But it's very rewarding. I've always found it really a rewarding part of the business to be involved in.
Well, look, the best of luck for both of you in this exciting time working in EDF Renewables, and thank you for your time today on the Learn Live channel. It's been great to see you both, and thanks for sharing your journeys as well as to how you got into this industry, and hopefully that's been helpful for the teachers and students watching today. So we're going to just remind you to continue to use the live chat. The team at EDF Renewables are still online, including HPC as well, all waiting for your calls and your questions on the live chat. So keep them coming in, and we'll see you shortly back here on the Learn Live channel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now, this bit is for the parents, guardians, and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned.